Hey folks, this is Riker. Diablo 4 Season 7 has had one of the smoothest launches yet. But is it too smooth? We've had an eventful week in gaming this week. A key Diablo 4 team member announced his departure from Blizzard this week. The next Diablo 4 holiday event was announced. Last Epoch teased their Season 2 release date. Path of Exile 1 fans are not happy with what GGG just admitted. Ubisoft layoffs are raising alarms, and BioWare's future looking shakier than ever. Plus some sad news about a beloved voice actor. Stick around for all the latest gaming updates. But before we dive in, I'd like to take a minute to talk about this video's sponsor, NordVPN. A VPN is an important tool for keeping your data secure and encrypted on the internet. And I don't dare connect to public Wi-Fi without first enabling my VPN. Be it on a phone or a laptop, in an airport or a cafe, I turn on my protection before connecting to that public Wi-Fi. Because you never know who may be snooping around, trying to steal your personal data. Because that Wi-Fi network named Cafe Free Wi-Fi can actually be anyone using their phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot to trick you into connecting to them. Turn on your VPN, and now your data is getting encrypted before going out. You can also use a VPN to get around region block content by picking a server in a different country, and NordVPN has thousands of servers worldwide. And it's so user-friendly that you're basically just one click away from hiding your IP or browsing the web from a different country. And one account lets you connect up to 6 devices, be they computers, phones, or tablets. So take control of your internet experience today with NordVPN. And right now, when you use my link, nordvpn.com/Riker, you'll get a huge discount on a 2-year plan plus 4 additional bonus months. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/RHYKKER, or click the link in the description below. Starting with Diablo 4 news, sentiment on Season 7 from those who played seems to remain overall positive. It's funny, I actually expected it to be really difficult to have a good Season 7 after Season 6. I figured with everyone used to the OP Spiritborn in Season 6, just that insane level of power that we had, I knew that Season 7, we would have a balancing patch, we wouldn't have that crazy Spiritborn power. I figured Season 7 would end up being very unpopular, as everyone would feel like they were hugely nerfed and miss how strong they were in Season 6. Well, they ended up just buffing everyone in Season 7, the season theme greatly contributing to that, all the super fast progress and everything, all the legendaries raining from the sky. So I guess we avoided exactly the scenario that I was concerned about. But yeah, very smooth season launch, no major complaints, there's no material bottlenecks. As I said previously, I personally feel like early progression is way too fast, but then progression becomes okay in endgame, maybe even too slow for some people. But Blizzard was already reacting to people saying that it was taking too long to get the Restless Rot and whatnot. Blizzard's also been reacting very quickly to broken builds. It's happened a couple times now that some witchcraft power is causing some broken interaction, and they've reacted fast to disable the infringing thing before we got another Spiritborn situation. So gotta applaud them for learning from Season 6 and not letting things get out of hand. Decay Augmentation, one of the witchcraft powers, was the latest power to be disabled. This happened late yesterday, and the team is working on fixes to redeploy the power next week. They also intend to fix some of the things that are broken in a way that is not, beneficial to us. Things that aren't creating OP builds, but things that are making stuff underperform, like the Ring of Mendel and the Mantle of Mountain's Fury. They're not working properly, so they're working on fixing these. Now, one small complaint for this season, the Obel Gamblers seem to have taken a heavy nerf from relative to last season. It almost doesn't even feel worth the time taking to gamble anymore. I mean, just given how loot rains from the sky elsewhere, the Obel Gambler is just hilariously useless in comparison. Seems better to just use them to buy a bunch of Whispering Keys with your Obels, so that you can spend those on Whispering Chests inside Headhunts, because those have been greatly juiced. You're going to get the Root Hold Keys from those. Definitely be opening every Whispering Chest you run into. Now, one egregious thing that seems to have popped up for some players, and I don't know if this is just a console thing, but I've seen multiple reports from people saying that in the midst of gameplay, sometimes even while fighting a pit boss, they get this little shop notification pop up. And I just have to assume that this is a bug and not intended, because if this is intended, this is absolutely terrible and the worst decision ever. Now, one reasonable complaint I've seen from some players, the introduction of forced party activities in the season journey. Seems like a progression from Season 6, which added the Dark Citadel, which was forced group content. Now, granted, you don't have to complete every step in the season journey, but it's just kind of an arbitrary objective to have to be partied up with someone while you accomplish something, which rubs some people the wrong way. Now, this week we got some news that I found devastating. Adam Jackson announced that he is leaving Blizzard. He had been at Blizzard for 15 years. He joined the Diablo 4 team in 2021. He was on Heroes of the Storm since 2015, loved Heroes of the Storm, and he had become lead class designer on D4 in 2022, and since March 2024, he was lead live designer. He was always a great presence at campfire chats, and the few times that I got to talk to him in person, he just had a wealth of game design knowledge. And I think it'll definitely be a blow to the D4 team to lose him. He posted on X, quote, "What a long, strange trip it's been. After 15 years at Blizzard Entertainment, it's finally time to say goodbye. I have so many great memories here. It's incredibly bittersweet to close this door, but I'm excited for the future and can't wait to get started on my next adventure." We'll be keeping an eye out to see what that next adventure may be. In some more positive D4 news, the game rose to the 6th most played game on Steam Deck following the release of Season 7. This also coincided with a free-to-try period for the game, which served as the perfect storm to drum up those player numbers. Now, Path of Exile 2 is, in general, a vastly more popular game on Steam than Diablo 4, though it should be noted that Steam is probably most definitely the biggest platform for PoE2, whereas it's the smallest platform for Diablo 4. PC players of D4 in probably an order of magnitude, if not multiple orders of magnitude, more play on Battle.net rather than Steam. But still, D4 more popular on Steam Deck than PoE2, which may seem surprising, given the numbers are very different for regular Steam play outside of Steam Deck. But I hear that D4 is just really well optimized for the Steam Deck, whereas PoE2 on Steam Deck doesn't hold up as well. That's what I hear, at least. Also, the Steam Deck is a good platform for more casual players who might not have as much time to play and want to just game a bit here and there. And that's the kind of audience that D4 is best catered to. And other Diablo 4 news, the Lunar Awakening event is returning this year. It'll run from February 4th to 18th. During this event, regular shrines are replaced with lunar shrines, which are basically juiced up versions of normal shrines that give 100% bonus XP and an enhanced base effect, depending on the shrine. And then I think while you're under the effects of a shrine, killing monsters is going to earn you advancement along a reputation track. You go to Ked Bardu to track that reputation track and grab your rewards, which are going to include cosmetics and a resplendent spark. And we'll end with some more Season 7 tips here. As a reminder, I have a few videos already, which you can find on Riker.com. I got a class tier list, I got an Ultimate Season 7 guide, and I just posted recently a top 10 builds video for Season 7. Necromancer Bloodwave is by far the most powerful build of the season, as we expected, but some other Necro builds are actually underperforming due to some bugs. Macro BioBoy has a couple of videos going over the bugs, but a couple extra tips. If you're having trouble finding the lost witchcraft powers, one way to farm them, which I'm going to say right now is boring, so I don't recommend it, but if that's what you really want to do, if you just want to farm those powers, you're going to run the dungeon in Fractured Peaks called the Hoarfrost Demise. Run that over and over, not as a Nightmare dungeon, just as a normal dungeon. Do it on Torment 4 if you can to increase your chances at an altar spawn. Also drink a draft of Whispers, that's going to double your chances. And then really just run through the dungeon. You don't have to kill anything, just go explore, get to the second level, get to the end, and then teleport out, reset dungeon, repeat. It's a small dungeon, small, easy layout, and you should have a 10% chance every time you run it to run into an altar if you follow these instructions. That said, honestly, you shouldn't be in a big rush to get these done. Just play the game normally. You'll be doing a lot of pits to level up your glyphs. You're going to find these in pits. Also, farming Obdacite this season, best source seems to be the Undercity with the key specifically for masterworking materials, but you're going to run out of those. Otherwise, Nightmare dungeons seem to be beating now Infernal Hordes by a factor of about 2 to 1. Of course, it's going to depend on your exact efficiency with each activity, but they seem to beat out Infernal Hordes, and you effectively can run unlimited Nightmare dungeons. So it's a good way to farm your Witchcraft powers and Obdacite at the same time. Also for Obdacite though, the Mercenary Gambler got buffed. It's become a decent source of Obdacite as well. Be sure to level up all your mercenaries and spend your mercenary coins at the little gambler in the mercenary den. You get one free reroll every day. Definitely make use of it. The masterworking cash now can get you anywhere from 750 to 1,250 obdicite on T4, which is a huge improvement from the insulting 20 obdicite that it gave in Season 6. Oh, and if you're having trouble finding runes this season, definitely do those Undercity tributes for runes. Alright, on to Path of Exile news. The big news of the week was an admission from GGG that PoE 1 has basically been on ice and will continue to be on ice until PoE 2 is in what they feel is an acceptable state. In a video to fans, game director Jonathan Rogers explained how, when they first announced Path of Exile 2, they promised that they would continue to create expansions for Path of Exile 1, and that they intended to keep that promise. He explained that their ideal launch date for the 3.26 expansion would have been late October, before PoE 2 Early Access, but then with them needing to finalize everything for PoE 2's Early Access, they figured they just couldn't also get a PoE expansion out right before then. And they also didn't want to launch right after PoE 2, so they ruled out December. Then they figured they couldn't do January because of Christmas, so they were looking at February at the earliest, meaning 7 months with no new league. But they figured they just couldn't possibly do it any sooner than that. Then, well, PoE 2 got delayed, and once it did release, there were some major issues, so they've been all hands on deck for PoE 2 for months now. And they just can't justify pulling people off of PoE 2 to get work on the next PoE 1 expansion until the fires are put out. Once the team got back from Christmas, they had to admit to themselves that they just could not get started on PoE 3.26 until a couple weeks after they're going to ship PoE 2 0.2.0, once all the major issues are resolved. So at this point, it could be months still before we get a new PoE 1 expansion. But Jonathan did reaffirm his commitment to making 3.26 happen. Now, a lot of fans were upset to learn this news because of the promise from long ago that the development of Path of Exile 2 would not impact Path of Exile 1. And I believe GGG was sincere when they made that promise. And I think they just got hit with the reality that managing production pipelines for 2 games at once is a lot more challenging than they expected. I think had they known then what they know now, they would not have made this promise. That is the promise that PoE 1 would be unaffected by PoE 2. I think GGG did the right thing in moving its resources onto PoE 2 during this time, but I think their mistake was not communicating to fans as of months ago to not expect a new expansion until at least February. It sounds like they knew since the release of 3.25 that February was the earliest time we'd see 3.26, and if they had just said, maybe in August, hey guys, we know we promised that PoE 2 would not affect PoE 1, but we really need all hands on deck here to get PoE 2 out, we're sorry, then, fans would have been happy, but at least they would not have been waiting for the expected news of 3.26, and expectation management, I think, is just such a huge part of community relations. The longer you let people build up expectations, the more upset they're going to be by bad news. Also, I don't believe this is the death of Path of Exile 1. I do believe Jonathan is sincere in committing to 3.26. This is a growing pain. GGG is a company that was excellent at running one live service game. They perfected the formula for that, the 13-week cycle. But 2 games at once, well, now they're learning. But again, expectation management. People are understandably upset right now. Now, some people were asking why GGG can't just rerun old leagues in the meantime, and community member Pox actually basically went ahead and did just that. He hosted his own private league for the community. It started yesterday. It happened really fast. It's going to run until April 1st, and I thought actually he didn't leave enough time for signups. I thought he should have waited, left more time to advertise this, but he got 20,000 out of 20,000 signups within a very brief turnaround, so good for him. This is a Settlers Restart League, and honestly, props to Pox for taking charge and doing something positive for the community in the face of all the negativity. Now, moving on from the PoE 1 stuff, as we await PoE 2 patch notes, one suggestion I saw recently from the community to improve endgame mapping that I think is a great idea. Once you run into an activity in a map, like Ritual or Expedition, it'd be great if the icon stayed visible on the map. A lot of us are going to full clear a map before we tackle one of these league mechanics, so that we don't risk dying during a league mechanic and then losing the map. And it could just be a bit of a pain to remember where in the map we encountered the mechanics, so just having the icon stay there would help. Or maybe once the map is complete, the icons could just pop up on the map, you know, little quality of life thing. On to some Ubisoft news. We got the story trailer for Assassin's Creed Shadows, which releases March 20th, and this story actually seems kind of good. But this trailer comes off the heels of almost 200 layoffs across Ubisoft, as they have permanently closed their Leamington studio in the UK, while downsizing several other studios, including Reflections, Dusseldorf, and Stockholm. Ubisoft Leamington was previously an Activision Blizzard studio known for its DJ Hero games before it was bought by Ubisoft in 2017. Since then, they acted as a support studio, helping with The Division, Far Cry 5, Skull and Bones, and Star Wars Outlaws. These layoffs come less than 2 months after Ubisoft shut down X-Defiant and laid off the almost 300 employees who worked on that game. Now, Ubisoft has roughly 19,000 employees, making it one of the biggest gaming companies in the world by number of employees. So cutting 200 people was just a 1% reduction in staff. But if Assassin's Creed Shadows, here, this latest one, is not going to be a financial success for Ubisoft, it's going to be another disappointment in the long line of disappointments we've had this year for them, I imagine we're going to start to see some much more aggressive, much larger scale layoffs and closures for Ubisoft throughout 2025. Then in some BioWare news, the studio put out a statement basically explaining that they are downsizing to focus entirely on the next Mass Effect game. In a statement, they said, quote, "Now that Dragon Age the Veilguard has been released, a core team at BioWare is developing the next Mass Effect game. Given the stage of development, we don't require support from the full studio. We have worked diligently over the past few months to match many of our colleagues with other teams at EA that had open roles that were a strong fit. Today's news will see BioWare become a more agile, focused studio that produces unforgettable RPGs." IGN has reported that a smaller number of Dragon Age team members have already been laid off, including the Veilguard's narrative designer and lead writer, as well as an editor, a producer, a senior systems designer, and that's apart from the Veilguard's game director, who confirmed she left voluntarily because she accepted an offer at another developer, this one in the CRPG space. Now, I just said last week how I'm concerned about BioWare's future, how the next Mass Effect game may be their last chance, and this feels like it further cements that idea. Everything is riding on this game. They have nothing else in production now. They're becoming a one-game studio. Then in some quite sad news, I don't normally cover topics like this, but Wayne June, the legendary voice of the narrator in Darkest Dungeon, has passed away. What a talented voice actor. He plays such a big part in what makes Darkest Dungeon so memorable. This one hit hard for me. May he rest in peace. In some positive news, we got a super quick 15-second teaser for Last Epoch Season 2. Yep, they're calling them seasons now instead of cycles because that's a term people are more familiar with. The teaser is hype, and Season 2 launches on April 2nd. Then lastly, we got the update trailer for No Man's Sky World Part 2. A huge update that adds new stars, new stories, and new classes of planets with new biomes and creatures. There's also engine enhancements that overhaul the lighting system, improved water rendering, faster load times, and more. I'm just so happy for this game being able to make a turnaround like it made, recovering from a bad launch. It's so rare to see a game make a comeback like this. Good for them. And that's going to wrap up this video, folks, but do be sure to have checked out last week's video in which I give my review of Diablo 4 Season 7. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders for more gaming content.